I wrote this book in 1 month and I'm currently selling it on Amazon, and I've actually done this more than once. And so if you would like to learn how you can also write a book within a month or even less, then stick with me on this video. So first things first, you want to write about something you're familiar with. You want to write about something that you know. And so for instance, when I was writing one of my very first ebooks that I currently sell on my website, makes me a few $100s per month, I actually wrote up, it was about becoming a social media manager, how to become a social media manager. I had been a social media manager for about 2 years, and I just basically dumped my knowledge into the book. Of course, I organized it later, but because I knew about the subject, it was super easy for me to write, and I ended up writing that book in about 10 days, and it's still selling till today. And so if you want to write a book quickly, then it's important that you choose a subject that you're already familiar with. But you're probably thinking, gee, I don't have knowledge I could share with people. That is not true. Trust me, I've talked to a lot of people, and a lot of you have knowledge that you think other people would not need. But the only reason why you're thinking that it's not something that somebody will read is because you're undervaluing that piece of knowledge. You know something. So go ahead and think about things that you're already familiar with and write about those. The second thing is to now create an outline of your book. And in creating an outline, first of all, you'll probably just have to dump some ideas. So these are ideas that you want to discuss in the book, big ideas that you want to discuss in the book that you're going to write. And so for instance, let's go back to my social media manager book. I wanted to talk about how to build proof, all right? Even if you're brand new to social media management, I wanted to write about how to find clients, all right? So these are huge topics that I can go into detail on, right? So you want to write those ideas down. And then once you have written those down, then you want to organize it into an outline that makes sense, that seems sequential or chronological or whatever, so that it makes sense for whoever is reading it. So the second step is to now outline your book. If this is making sense so far, drop me a thumbs up emoji in the comments below. And so moving on to step number 3, now that you have outlined your ideas, it's time to flesh them out. And this is where you want to set your writing hours. And so what I personally did when I was writing my social media manager book, as well as the book that I just showed you, which actually is a fiction novel, I would set writing hours. And so I would decide that I'm going to write for an hour a day. And so during that hour, I would sit at my computer, and I used a timer on my computer, on my browser, called the Egg timer. There's also another one called Forest, and I love Forest because with Forest, not only is it a timer, but whilst I'm writing, it also blocks my access to social media sites. So I'm not tempted to move from my word processor to go into Facebook or YouTube or Twitter just because I'm hitting some kind of writing block. And so you can decide that, okay, I'm just going to write for an hour a day, and during the hour a day, my goal is to hit 1,000 words. It's likely sometimes that you will not hit that goal. It's likely that there are days that you're going to go above that goal, but set that time and then set that word count. Maybe it's 500 words for you, maybe it's 1,000, maybe it's 2,000. Set that time, set that word goal, and during that time, do your best to just write, block out distractions, and develop those ideas that you created in your outline. Usually, whilst you're doing this, whilst you're setting those hours and writing, it's very likely also that sometimes you write something that you're like, oh, this doesn't make sense. Let me go back and delete that. See, I think that is a #1 killer of a lot of writers, where we over edit ourselves. We'll write something that we really want to say and then be like, I don't know if that's right. And then we'll go back and just delete that. And maybe that's what we really wanted to say. So my advice to you is that as you write, just like write everything that is coming to mind about that particular subject. And as you continue to write, the great thing is that you will be productive, #1, and #2, you can come back and edit yourself if you need to, or refine the language if you need to. But if you sit there just thinking, okay, what's the most perfect way that I can say this, then you're crippling yourself and you'll never actually write that piece of content that you want to write. So go ahead, and as you have set your writing hours, you've set a word count, just go ahead and write. Don't worry about it being perfect at first. And then of course the last step is to make sure that once you have just written, right, because in that stage where we're writing, we're just writing everything that is coming to mind. Now what you're going to do is you're going to go back and read through and see, okay, did I express that idea the way I wanted to express it? Was that the way I wanted to say that? Is that clear enough? And sometimes you might even want to read it out loud, so that, you know, when you read it out loud and you're like, that doesn't sound right when I read it out loud, it's helpful in helping you spot places where the language isn't clear, where things seem confusing, where maybe you have even repeated yourself, so that you can correct those errors before maybe you send it off to an editor or proofreader. And essentially, that is my very, very simple process for writing books in 30 days or less. Let me know in the comments below if this video was helpful to you, if it sparked some ideas for you. Give it a thumbs up if you like it. If you didn't like it, feel free to give it a thumbs down as well.